29 בנובמבר 1947.
Stephen Pomerantz was a senior crime fighter in the FBI and is now committed to the war against terrorism. Is this due to a sense of duty or a taste of adventure?
Probably a combination of the two. I came into this, into that job from military service, directly from military service. So I was attracted to the idea of serving my country, of doing something useful. Combine that with an adversity to sitting behind a desk, and that's probably the answer. But on the more serious side, yeah, I think I had a commitment to, like to believe I still do, to the concept of justice, and I saw that as a way to fulfill that commitment.
In your day-to-day work today, you're involved in the war against terrorism, as we said. Is there progress being made?
For sure there is progress being made. I look at this country and what's happened to us in a post-9/11 world, and I marvel at the progress that's been made. Unfortunately, it took a huge national tragedy. I mean, I liken it to, we were in a war before 9/11, only we didn't act like it. And most Americans didn't know it. We were being victimized by terrorists around the world.
For example, in Kenya.
Our embassies being attacked, our military assets being attacked, our citizens being subject to attack all over the world, and our response was totally less than adequate. And to see that we finally have, it took a horrible tragedy, but we are now fully engaged. I mean, you can argue about the efficiency of that, and you can look at the constituent parts of that and criticize some and not others, but again from a 50,000-foot perspective, we are totally engaged in fighting these people, and it's clear that we've been successful. I mean, we've suffered no more serious attacks at home, and we've really suffered no more serious attacks in other parts of the world except in combat zones, in Iraq and Afghanistan, obviously, but very few attacks anywhere else. We have really crippled al-Qaeda. We've not dealt the knockout blow yet, but we've crippled them. We've engaged with our allies, like Israel and like some of our European allies, much more closely, and have had great success in shutting down some operations. We've had success in diminishing the flow of funds to terrorist organizations. So, yeah, again, from a big picture perspective, we have a long way to go, but we're doing it a lot better, a lot more successfully, and with a great deal more commitment in a post-9/11 environment. My only fear is that that will not continue into the future, that as we get further away from that attack, the trauma, from that, people go back to business as usual. If you go back to business as usual, I guarantee you the result of that is going to be they'll go back to business as usual and will become more vulnerable, be attacked again. This is not a battle you win on, a war that you win on defense. You've got to carry the battle to the terrorists, and you've got to deal with them. They're not going to quit voluntarily.
Do you sometimes feel that Jews have a special role or a special image inside this war?
There's just no doubt. I'll tell you what the special role of the Jew is in terms of terrorism. It's to be their victim. That's the special role. If we don't deal with it, that's our special role. They tell us that. We didn't ask for that. We didn't volunteer it, nor did we do anything to cause that. The threat of terrorism today is primarily a threat that comes from a radical form of Islam. It's not a condemnation of the religion of Islam at all. But the holy warriors today, the mujahideen, the jihadists, have an ideology that they have developed, that they have inculcated and disseminated around the world. And at the heart of that ideology is a war against the Jews. Their interpretation of their religion focuses, at least in part, on a hatred of the Jews, a hatred of the West, and an inevitable conflict between them, Jews, Christians, and the West. And to ignore that is beyond silly. It's self-destructive. we, the Jewish community, Jewish people, the state of Israel, have to respond to that. We can't ignore it. Have to defend ourselves against it.
And is there something that you bring from your Jewish roots into your work, into your perspective?
No, I don't think there's necessarily anything that about my perspective, as far as my work is concerned, that is a result of my Judaism. I certainly, as you can probably tell, my enthusiasm for the work of counterterrorism, to do this work, is very much influenced by the fact that I'm Jewish, because I realize it is me, my children, and my family, including my extended family, are the principal targets of this terrorism. So yes, my Judaism certainly inspires my enthusiasm for the work. I wouldn't say it colors the way I do the work, no.
And do you feel a link in a chain to some extent?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Can you elaborate on that for a second? In what sense do you feel a link in a chain?
Hard to say. I certainly feel a link to the past. Look, I'm the last generation in my family who knew the immigrants. I mean, I knew my grandparents who emigrated from Europe to come to this country, and what they had suffered, and what this country meant to them. I understand what it meant in their lives to be Jewish, and my children are a product of a Jewish education. My children spend huge amounts of their time in Israel, so I feel very much connected. I understand myself to be part of the Jewish people, and I react and live my life accordingly. And it certainly, once again, it lends enthusiasm and purpose and direction to what I do.